Jansen, and I'm the project manager for both the Kingston Point Rail Trail and the Hasbrook Delaware projects. I'm basically here to introduce you to the mayor, who's going to talk a little bit about these projects before we go into an informational meeting about the construction process. And I also just want to say in Spanish that if anybody here would prefer to speak Spanish, that we have Julia Farr, who can help with translation. I'm going to say that in Spanish. Si hay alguien aquí que quiere o prefiere hablar en español, hay Julia Farr aquí que puede traducir, y también yo puedo traducir si prefiere hablar en español. Okay? And so I'll introduce Mayor Steve Noble, and he will tell you about the project.
Thanks, Chris. I'm going to ditch that just because there's some feedback happening tonight. But thank you all so much for the opportunity to just speak for 5 minutes, and then we're going to start the evening. We're really excited to be able to have this opportunity coming to fruition. It's been a large project with many stakeholders and many partners, as well as some really dedicated staff that over the last couple of years have been able to move this project from conceptual design to now construction. And we're very excited to be able to see construction happening as we speak. Tonight you'll be able to learn about 2 different projects, but that are connected as being part of the Kingston Point Rail Trail. To orient folks, this trail project was conceived, if you will, almost 8 years ago by a group of volunteers from the Kingston Land Trust, working in partnership with the City of Kingston to take a former rail line that had been severed when the construction of Kingston Hospital occurred, leaving a small stretch of inactive trail or rail line from Midtown Kingston all the way down to the waterfront. We were able to work with the Trolley Museum of New York, who at the time had the rights to that rail bed, and they gave us back our rights to develop this trail. And since then, we have been working to acquire over $1.3 million in grant funding dedicated toward trail building to be able to make this project happen and really be what I believe is going to be a great connection for the neighborhood. I personally grew up in the neighborhood just across the street from the trail on Newkirk Avenue, and that for me was my old stomping grounds. Even though it wasn't ever officially a trail, we used it anyway, and it was a great way to be able to get from First Avenue to Third Avenue and be able to explore the woods and be able to see nature and be able to have it be just a connecting opportunity. And so, but now it's going to be accessible to all. We'll be putting in a 10-foot wide paved trail from just behind Burger King on Jansen Avenue all the way down to the for this phase to Rondout Gardens, and then phase 2 all the way down to the waterfront. So this evening, you're going to see the culmination of all of that work. You're going to get to see designs for what we're currently calling the Hasbrook Delaware Parklet. It's a small pocket park and sidewalk project that we're doing at the corner of Delaware and Hasbrook Avenue. It's always been a terrible intersection with many people often turning right down the wrong way street and trying to drive up Delaware or not being able to see pedestrians crossing. And so this project in particular is going to make some major improvements to visibility for both pedestrians and vehicles, but also provide access to this new trail that we're building with a staircase and with an ability to really have the neighborhood on that side be able to connect right down to our trail system. And then as you explore the other boards in this room, you'll see the rest of the designs and drawings and construction documents for the rest of the trail. As you will venture around the room, you'll also see each one of the sections. We'll also have a different trailhead for you to see. And so these are the trailheads that we'll be building to be able to be the place where visitors first greet the trail, can get oriented with the trail, and be able to connect to some of the local Kingston resources along the trail. And so I would encourage you to check those out. And what's nice about tonight is that we're doing this not necessarily to have you comment on the design per se. You're here to be able to learn about what's going to be happening in your neighborhood over the next 6 to 9 months, because this project is now in construction. And so if you've driven down Delaware or Hasbrook Ave recently, you'll see that the first step with the Parklet project is actively under construction at this moment. New sidewalks are already going in. And as you'll start to see over the next few weeks, mobilization occurring along Delaware Avenue all the way down to Rondout Gardens. And so that work will happen through the winter and into next spring. And each of the stations that you see are going to have both city staff, Kingston Land Trust staff, available to be able to just talk to you about the construction schedule, what impacts it may have in your neighborhood, what impacts it may have to your house. For just a show of hands, how many of you live adjacent to the trail? Anyone live adjacent to the project? All right, so it's important. It's important for you guys to touch base directly with our staff so that you can see a face and get a name, so that if issues come up, you'll know who to talk to as we go through this project. We sent letters to all of the residents along or we will be sending a letter to all of the residents along the trail as well, so that they'll know who to contact when if issues come up or questions are raised. So that's the introduction. And so for this evening, what we're going to do is I encourage you to visit the different stations. I encourage you to talk to all of the staff that are here to help answer your questions and to learn more about this exciting project. And our goal with these combined projects is that all of this work will be done by August of 2019. And so by next summer, or the end of next summer, we will have a walkable, bikeable trail connecting us all once again to our waterfront. So with that, do you have anything else?
I just wanted to mention that before we break out into groups or going around the room, really the opportunity here is to go and speak directly with city staff, and we also are very lucky to have our contractors for the Kingston Point Rail Trail from Merit Construction. Kathleen and Charlie, I don't know if you want to raise your hands. They'll be over on this side of the room, and so they can answer questions about construction schedule. Also, we have Nancy Clark from Casey Engineering, who was the engineer on the Kingston Point Rail Trail. We also have Alan Aiden and John Schulteis over near Hasbrook, Delaware, Parklet. John is our new city engineer, and Alan has been in our engineering office for many years, and they worked on the engineering design of Hasbrook, Delaware, Parklet. So I just wanted to point out that now is your chance to speak directly with the engineers and the contractors on the project. And we also have many Kingston Land Trust staff around the room. Julia Farr, the executive director of the Kingston Land Trust, who have been at this for many, many years, from the concept to now, to construction.
Okay, great. Well, thank you all very much. Appreciate it. Oh.
Can I just say thank you to all of you. You've worked incredibly hard on getting this to this point, and it's exciting. I'm Tim. I was one of the original members of the Kingston Rail Trail Committee when it first formed, that became the Kingston Green Line Committee. And I can remember sitting in my dining room working on the first RFP for a feasibility study that Alta Planning and Design did 6 or 7 years ago. And so it's really, really exciting to see this progress. And I know you, Mayor Noble, you, Kristen, and a lot of staff in the city, as well as the Kingston Land Trust, have spent an enormous amount of time and energy getting to this point. So I just wanted to say thank you. Thanks.
So feel free to jump up and go check out the boards and ask questions.
So you'll walk through the park and then you'll walk along here?
Yes.
Okay. This is all bluestone?
This will be concrete,
okay.
textured concrete, and we're even going to do a little decorative addition here. There are these, it's aggregate in the concrete that glows. It absorbs light, and at night it will glow a soft green color.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Wait, where is that?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
With bands across that Parklet part. And, from here to here, this will just be regular concrete, and the path through the Parklet. That in phase 1, we're just putting the sidewalk and curb in. Phase 2 is going to be a lot of landscaping. We have worked with KAN Landscape Design and
Okay, so this is a conceptual design of the Hasbrook, Delaware Parklet, and this is the shade structure that eventually we hope to be able to put into the site, and that would probably be in a later phase. But the idea is to give folks a place to rest and sort of evoke the idea of a railroad station, and then you can look over and down into the rail trail, which is a level below. So you take a staircase down on the side and access the rail trail. But we don't have the funding yet to create this structure, so the conceptual model helps inspire us so that we can raise those funds and complete the site. Right now what's under construction is the hardscape, so more of the sidewalk and the pavement, and we will be adding in plantings, and a lot of the amenities that you see here will come in over time.